Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and Leap, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with test school and life based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 60 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating topic we want to explore today is ourselves. Welcome to EXTEMP with Amy and Mike, May 2025.
So normally, Mike, I can say that when we go to record these, it's a good opportunity for you and I to play catch up, right? What's funny is we were just together this past week, of course.
We spent a long time, not just at the IECA conference in Detroit, but many hours in the car there and back.
Actually, I think I have figured out why I was so exhausted upon my return, Mike. And it's probably because from the moment I got in your car to drive to Detroit, then from the moment literally you dropped me off, we were just like motor mouthing to the point where, there was just so much like energy in our conversations and communication. And so, because we don't get that much time together, right in person. So we had a lot of it this past week.
You are not kidding. We should have recorded EXTEMP then, but actually we did so much planning for the podcast that, those are other notes and those results, we'll get to what we were discussing.
Yeah, but it was a great conference. I think this was our, let's see, we went to Philadelphia before, Seattle. Why am I forgetting?
Then Connecticut.
Mohegan
Sun was very forgettable.
Yeah, it was. And then now Detroit. And I will say, every time we go, it is such an amazing opportunity for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. Obviously, meeting up with our National Test Prep Association colleagues at their table, although this was the first year we were not there representing NTPA.
Not to say that we didn't represent NTPA,
we were at the table.
We weren't stationed at the table.
It was not our primary responsibility.
We led the charge to have National Test Prep Association present or be a sponsor of the IECA conference, and it worked so well. But yes, we had other things to present. We had a lot of reasons to be there, but seeing our colleagues in test prep was fantastic. Also, wasn't it fantastic to see our colleagues in college admissions,
100%.
Our IECA friends, and we have many of them,
right? So
many former guests, so many future guests, so many listeners. It's such a treat to meet, just a ton of like-minded individuals that are the other population. If we straddle test prep and college admissions, I know that we are part of a lot of different groups, but it's nice to spend time with the independent educational consultants.
Right. And every year goes by, it's just a larger and larger, like a friendlier and friendlier space for us with the Tests and the Rest podcast. And obviously, we got to represent ourselves, right? We had our own table for Tests and the Rest. So that was great to see people we knew, but also to have the opportunity to invite new guests. And I think that's what I love about it, is just meeting people. And with the sessions, all of the topics that we can see, these are great opportunities for new discussions on the podcast, which is one of the things I love about it. A lot of creative energy when you're talking to people and you're listening to presentations. But then, of course, one of the most exciting things about the conference for me, not for you necessarily, was the opportunity for the first time to be able to present.
It was exciting for me. I mean, I've presented before, but the topic that I presented on in, I think it was Seattle, was different. It was
very different.
About the state of test optional admissions at that point. I presented with Judy Rabinovitz, our good friend, and the deans of admissions at University of Rochester and Florida State University. And, not University of Rochester. I think it was Boston University.
Yes, that sounds right. Boston University,
yes.
Yeah.
And that was great, but of course it was a different time. Imagine this, 2 years ago, this was a little bit of a not scandalous, but controversial presentation to give the group, because IECA was just coming around to the idea as an organization, not the many individuals who supported standards and testing throughout, but just to be willing to have that on the slate. So it was a different experience. our presentation was completely
A whole different vein
separate.
of
Oh,
conversation.
and it was something we love to talk about.
Right. So yeah, so we presented on scaling your practice. So this was explicitly about business, business development. We were on a panel with Zach Galen, where we got to talk about like lots of kind of concepts or ways of thinking about increasing or building your business. So, you know, you certainly were talking about kind of all the services and the test break curriculum and the newsletters and all the good work you're doing. I obviously was talking about purchasing Leap and what that's like for an acquisition. So it was just real interesting. And then to kind of see what people would think. First of all, the first question for me was to see if people showed up for the
Yes.
present. That's always the
And
fear, right? You know, that no one
there
comes to
was
your
room
presentation.
for what, like 150 people, and the place was filled. There were
Yeah.
people who were sitting on the
And
floor.
there are a lot of other sessions too. So you
Yeah.
know you're potentially competing against other topics, right? That people have to choose amongst. But yeah, no, it was very well attended. And it's interesting, you know, there was probably about 20 minutes for questions. And I think we were 23 minutes in where we realized we needed to wrap it up because people did
Yes.
have a lot of questions after our
I
presentation.
had people coming to me throughout the conference
Right,
asking
exactly.
follow-up questions. So, I mean, really made an impact. And I have to give a shout out to Zach
He
Galen,
did such a great job.
who is such Zach Galen of Galen Education, based out of Wisconsin, but serving the world. Zach is not just a fantastic speaker, but he is so knowledgeable
Hmm.
about the business of education.
Yeah. And he decided he became the
He
moderator,
became the moderator.
which
He
is
liked the
actually,
turnaround, right?
but we like that because obviously you and I always chit chatting. We're always back and forth. So it's always fun when our colleagues want to step in and moderate us, Mike. And that's kind of what Zach did. But at the same time, Zach had so much to share on his own that I
Yes.
think it was just a really excellent presentation that we're actually hoping that we can reboot this in the future, you know, potentially next year at the NTPA conference.
It went so smoothly. It was a joy to talk about business. That's a topic that you and I really like to talk about, and we consult and coach our colleagues on, but we don't speak about so much on tests and the rest just because that's not exactly the thrust of this podcast.
Sure, exactly. But we certainly we're having more and more of those conversations everywhere we go, aren't we?
Well, I mean, we've been learning a lot about business over decades, right?
Right.
Including very recently, we've both learned some really big lessons.
Yep. No, 100% we definitely have. So yeah, so looking forward to what Baltimore, IECA Baltimore 2026 will have in store for both of us, right?
Yeah, I think that we should present again.
Have to find another topic. Well,
Yeah,
who
exactly.
knows? The test prep space is often filled by some of the bigger box companies across the US. But I
Hmm.
actually should say there was an excellent presentation done by four test prep companies, you know, much larger companies about sort of the changes to the ACT that I thought that was really helpful. And actually,
Oh,
it was
absolutely.
great,
Especially with our friend Megan Stubbenbeck being part of the
right, from
team.
Arbor Bridge.
It was informative.
They did a really great job. Again, it's about collaboration. So to see four, you know, people from four very big different companies co-presenting, it says a lot about just the collaboration that I think exists in our industry. And I actually felt like I learned, you know, you never know going into that because we do so much nitty gritty into the test and the test
Hmm.
changes. But I had some really good takeaways, you know, or confirmation of things that I was already thinking about changes to the ACT, that there's nothing better than when you have an instinct about something to
Yes.
hear it out of somebody else's mouth, confirming, like, oh, yes, this is something that I was thinking and wondering. So that was great.
That attitude is the hallmark of a great educator, Amy, right? Is that you know as much as anyone else about the topic. There was the enhanced ACT, but you're open to hearing from other experts to continue your learning.
Yep, exactly.
And
So
so, yeah,
that's what
we
I love.
had that reaction. And that is going to inform something that we're working on, right?
We are. What are we working on, Mike?
Well,
What plan did we hatch on our way home from Detroit?
yeah, we hatched a ton of plans. But one of the things we realized, which would be great for the podcast, is to start releasing a series, a seminar series, a Test and the Rest seminar series, where you and I, or maybe you and I and some guests, would tackle some big topics, not just in audio format, but in a live webinar format.
Right. And both of us obviously have been hosting webinars for so long. I mean, obviously, as long as COVID, right? That's what really launched, at least for me, doing webinars. And you and I have been doing them separately. And we were like, wait a second, why are we not reaping the benefit of co-hosting, these webinars and kind of hopefully reaching a larger audience and incorporating our guests, but of course, in a video format,
In a video format.
which
It's
of
funny
course
because we
comes
went
with
through
the
a phase. We went through a phase where we co-hosted the Test and the Rest
summit,
Summit
right?
series. But since we transferred that to the National Test Prep Association, we've only been ever co-hosting
Right.
podcasts.
Right.
And we don't present together anymore, really. Like, and presenting
We don't
together
play
was a
off
lot of
each
fun. We were
other.
like, hey, we love to do this.
We do. And
Yeah,
I think we're good at it, I like to think, right?
I think we're fantastic
Well,
at it.
I like to think we come up with good ideas that people want to hear about.
Hmm.
We collaborate, so we try to find if they're experts that we certainly know can contribute to the conversation. So the idea behind doing these videos, right, is we get a chance to talk more about these things together. We get to do it in a video format. We'll have the benefit, right, of a video that we
Right.
can post on YouTube. We can
Hmm.
share the recordings, or we can use clips. So there's a lot of potential benefits in this collaboration that I think we just hadn't fully kind of thought about or developed in the past.
Right, because I'm doing my own presentations, you're doing your own presentations, but if we combine what we're doing and we bring a lot more organization to it, right? Just to be able to do it live and be able to answer questions in real time, but then, as you say, have everything available later for people that didn't make it. And so, what is our first topic going to be? It's certainly a timely one.
None other than who would
The
have
game plan, right?
game plan for the enhanced ACT. So of course, that's the topic in testing, the testing world that's on everybody's mind. And obviously, we've done some episodes on that thus far, but this will give us an opportunity to really formally put together everything, all the conversations we've had, all the information we have at our disposal, to share with a much larger community than just our own respective, sort of regions or areas.
And so we're going to, so now for listeners, you're going to hear kind of how Amy and I do things, which is on the fly. So we've already established that we want to schedule the game plan for the Enhanced ACT seminar on May 28th. And we set a time, I believe, of 7 p.m. Eastern.
That is correct, Mike.
But I wanted to throw out another idea.
Oh boy, here we go.
I think we should add a daytime hours time, especially for school counselors and IECs and other adults that maybe
Mike,
that fits
that is
within their.
such an excellent idea. I can't believe that actually it's funny. That crossed my mind when we were talking about time,
Yeah,
the thought of a daytime one. And so there's no reason for me that we couldn't even do that the same day earlier
perfect.
if
There
you
we go. So maybe 1
oh,
p.m.
1 p.m. would
Eastern.
be perfect, Mike. So we'll get it right in the first one of the day, and then we'll reboot it again, right? Later
That's a good
on
way
in
to
the
look at
day. Yeah. See, we're
it.
actually iterating right now in front of our listeners, right? Yeah, no, but this is exciting because this is really our intention is this for this to be the first of many more, kind of co-hosted webinars, which will be great. We're excited about that.
And we definitely want to hear from listeners about what kind of webinars you'd like and, what kind of guests you'd like us to invite. And if we can juggle this with everything else we're working on, we'd love to see this to be a monthly live event, covering all the topics that we're covering
Yeah.
anyway. But of course, we're swamped with projects. I know that I've launched my College Eagle newsletter. I'm enjoying that.
Which is lovely, by the way. I love it. I love to see the eagle and
I
what
love the
he's
eagle, right? What
wearing
he's wearing is
for
important. I've already thinking about what he's going to be wearing. Actually, he's going to be wearing a great school's Well, I'll put that off.
We're gonna line wait for that one.
Also, Roots to Words. I just released today an audit of the May 25 challenging vocabulary words. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's quite extensive.
Actually, I saw it in my inbox.
There were a lot of tough words on the May SAT.
Well, it's increasing in difficulty, and of course, I've been saying to you, it's making vocabulary and how we incorporate vocabulary into the work that we do with students a bigger deal, right? Because obviously we had sort of a hiatus for many years of not
Yes.
emphasizing vocabulary necessarily in our SAT curriculum, and now it's definitely it's a challenge, right? Simply because we know.
Let that be a teaser for something else I'm working on.
Oh, good. Well, then there we go. Because I want to hear more about that. Obviously, maybe that'll be
I,
XTEMP
I hope so. I better
June. I
get
don't
myself
know.
in gear. How about you? What else are you
I hope
working
so
on, Amy?
too. Well, I'm very excited to announce that I was able to get my HSPT recorded seminars and IC recorded seminars. So for, high school admissions testing for eighth graders, I got those all fully launched on the Sealy Test
That's
Pros Leap
such a
website. So that
massive
was cool because
work.
well, I mean, it's not a large project, but what it was understanding how to put it all together. When you already know this, like on a platform. So we use New Zenler, and so this was really my first foray into just making sure it got in there. Making sure all the instructions are there, the flow is there, which is great because we have a lot of recorded content for ACT and SAT. And so since how it is, once you do one project and you get a sense in your mind of how all that's going to look, there's a certain amount of it becomes a template that now doing the next two projects
Yeah.
become a little bit easier. Now you'll love this morning. I was ruminating about the ACT and going, okay, which of our recordings can be recycled for the new enhanced versus which of those recordings might need to be rebooted based upon some changes, right? So I'm like, okay, not all, but we have about 17 1-hour videos of ACT content that we have been
Right.
selling over the years, and like 4 sessions for English, 4 math, 4 reading, for science, and then 1 overview. So right now I'm like, okay, I need to dig into those. So that's kind of my next project. And Mike, fingers crossed, hopefully when we have our next XTemp, I'll be telling you all about how that project is
Absolutely, because you just
complete,
reminded me
hopefully.
that
So
a
we'll
big
see.
project that I have to take care of in the next month is to complete the Test Bright curriculum revision to incorporate both all the changes on the enhanced ACT and also things that we've learned about the evolving digital SAT. There are definitely
Correct.
some kind of question types we want to add and skills we want to focus on. It's always so interesting uh, to explore the tests as they evolve and improve instructional strategies, but then it's a lot of work too.
It it is, but it's funny, the only thing kind of on a personal level, like when I am doing these projects now, I look for, okay, what's the next weekend that I know I have like this full amount of time to just kind of dig in. Like I've become one of these people where it's almost like I want to enter a cave and go, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to dig in for like
Right.
48 hours. And because probably as sometimes what happens when you do that, when you quote unquote enter the cave, you think there's a certain amount of tasks you have to do. And then, of course, as you probably know, you start
Right.
doing the things, ideas start coming, or you realize, oh, no, I didn't anticipate. Like, so for example, when I went into my ICN HSPT, I'm like, oh, I got to rebrand all of our handouts to show Sealy Test Pros and Leap. And then you start making those changes like, oh, what if I tweak this or this? So, right. But the idea of sometimes I love that feeling of entering a project and being like, I have all
Hmm.
this like I have this, 2 days of time to just really dig into it. And that to me it feels really
Absolutely.
good.
That's easier for me
Um,
during the winter, but now that it's getting warm,
while
I've
you're
got this
gardening and being
elaborate
outdoors.
natural landscaping project going on. I just planted 10 dogwoods, like small dogwoods yesterday. Like it doesn't
Oh,
end
wow.
and I enjoy doing it, but right, it takes me away from what you're describing, getting deep into the work.
Well, actually, and so full disclosure, I got one more weekend coming up next weekend that I'll have this opportunity to really dig into a project. But then my dilemma, Mike, is then the week after that, the
Ah,
pool
see, you've
opens.
got the same thing. There's
And
something that
so for
beckons.
now it's not as,
Pool
beautiful like
time is not as
gardening,
productive.
but for me, that'll be tough. That's a tough personal choice of like, you can get some big project done or and obviously our projects involve, for me at least, being in front of a computer, and I'm not doing that
You're not.
poolside,
You know what they say,
unfortunately.
you
So
can only work
yeah.
as hard as you rest. You deserve your pool time, Amy.
Yes. So hopefully, but the good news is there's something I will say about a few of these projects that I've completed in the last month, that I feel like my brain now has a game plan for them or a system that I just didn't have. Like much like newsletters. I've been booting out newsletters once a week. I'm extremely proud of that because that is something in the entire amount of
Yes.
time that you've known me. You've been always encouraging me to do that. And I haven't. And even that now, I've fallen into kind of like
Yeah,
a template or a roadmap for that. And that just, I think I realize like that is something for me. Once I create like the roadmap, it makes the doing of the thing so much
100%. So,
easier.
okay, so definitely the next month holds some landscaping, some pool time, some curriculum revision. What else is happening? There's a big event that is all little more than a month away for us.
Yes, we've got the NTPA conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't even know what the city of Minneapolis holds for us. To be fair, full disclosure, I don't
Has
know
there
much about
been a city that
Minneapolis.
we haven't loved? I mean,
Um,
we just had a great time in Detroit. Everywhere we go,
we did,
with the
we did.
exception maybe of Mohegan Sun, we really had a blast.
Yeah, no, no. So we'll be in Minnesota in on June. Our conference for
June
NTPA will
16th
be
and
June
17th.
16th,
Hmm.
17th. We'll get to meet up with, well, every time, Mike, that we assemble, we've been able to say it's the largest
Yes.
gathering of test prep professionals that has ever existed. And it's looking like that will be true going into Minneapolis, which, of course, the wonderful thing is always the ability to meet up with old friends, right? But always meeting
Always.
new friends who have joined the organization and can contribute to the conversations. And so there'll be a lot of really good presentations. A lot of fun will be had. As you know, too, it's always about extending the conference. So I'm going in on
Hmm.
Saturday, and then heading home
Yes.
on Wednesday. And then the work of the summer like really begins as far as, I come home to like HSPT, eighth grade admission stuff really sort of
Oh yeah, our
launches. We have a
summer,
lot
I
of
mean, actually my
camps and
summer
things like that.
tutoring is going to start before that, but our classes and this year we're trying out a super intensive 32-hour class remote
I
too.
am
So
so
anybody
curious
can
to see
sign
how
up
that
for it,
goes,
but
right?
it's going to be very interesting to do this small group, 4 to 6 students, but that many hours, that's twice as many hours as most of our classes.
Well, eventually we'll talk about some work that I'm doing that's a
Oh
lot of
yeah, I'm
hours, but I'm not
excited
ready
to
to
have that
talk about
conversation.
that just yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this upcoming conference will be interesting for me because it's the first one that I'm not emceeing. I'm not leading as the president of the National Test Prep Association. So it's going to be fun to attend the conference that way, but a little weird too.
And I know it'll be, well, you'll have to sit in a
That's
chair
unlikely.
then. That's not likely. But I think for you, it'll be, I think though the beautiful thing about it, Mike, is that's a testament to how far you brought the organization over the last, at this point,
Yeah.
5.5 years, right? Like that, to the point that to be able to create an organization and to walk away from it and to have it continuing to do a great job and contribute to our industry and really to the world at large. I think that's what we always wanted, right? Or you wanted, like
That's what
that
we
you could
wanted.
walk
We
away. And the
definitely,
ability to walk away
yeah,
means that like something
we
great
wanted an
has occurred.
independent organization with its own animation, whether you or I were directly involved. And you're still on the board, but your time is going to be up at the end of the year too.
I'm creeping out of every responsibility as every month goes by. I mean, I'm very involved in the membership and I probably will continue to be involved. And obviously, you haven't left the organization.
No,
You're
I'm
still
leading the
working on,
leadership development
the
program and
leadership
all kinds of
development.
things, of course.
Nobody out there in our universe should think that Mike and Amy will like just completely disappear from NTPA because, to be fair, we feel the sense of obligation to give back to the organization because the mission of it, we like, it's really important.
On that note of duty and commitment, I should say that it's always a pleasure to talk about ourselves. We could talk about ourselves all day. We're going to have to stop here. Thank you, Amy, for joining me for another episode of EXTEMP.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Tests and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.